Alright, so quite a few things have been confirmed in the chapters that came after my theory video. Some minor, some major, but I'm sure the reveal in the latest chapter takes the spotlight. There were also some very interesting yet odd things that happened which I can't wait to get into. So let's dig deeper, go over what was confirmed, what changed, how does my theory hold up, and really answer the question of what does the father want? Of course, spoilers are gonna be plenty, so if you're not caught up or you're watching this as an anime only, be prepared. Let's get the easy ones out of the way first. Regarding the father, we finally got a name for him, Hikaru Kamiki. We also got a confirmation from Akane that Hikaru was 11 years old when he put Aiki in his mother's belly and 15 years old at the time of Ai's pregnancy, therefore confirming that Hikaru was in fact the middle schooler. Hikaru was also the man that appeared in chapter 72 during Ruby's visit to Ai's grave, which means he's well aware of his children's whereabouts. He also resembles Aqua's physical appearance to an almost mirroring degree, which is very odd given that Kindaichi Toshirou has worked with both him and Aqua, yet hasn't mentioned the uncanny similarities between the two? But we'll talk about this in a bit. Hikaru was also a graduate from Lalalie, which doesn't seem important, but you'd be surprised to see how much this matters. He's also got the black version of the starry eyes, which, as I said in my previous video, are meant to represent a negative determination, ill intention if you want, which seems to be the case here, but we'll expand on this shortly. He also enjoys killing, very much. Might actually be a serial killer because he does seem to have a pattern. This reveal actually changes quite a few things and gives us more clues to his goal, which we'll get into very soon. Now, these are the main confirmations that we got regarding the father. However, we also got some additional information, such as Hikaru having an obsession with sending white roses, having his own production agency which he established at the age of 25. Which is very odd given that he was an actor for Lalalie for 6 years, but not as odd as him graduating from the Faculty of Science. So, what's up with these weird career choices? Does it mean he was never an actor? To answer this, we have to go back to Hikaru's Lalalie days, and I'd say to keep a close eye on Kindaichi Toshirou, because there's something suspicious about him. We know from Akane's detective work that Hikaru joined Lalalie when he was 10 years old and either left or was let go 6 years later at the age of 16, obviously. We actually know the reason for his departure. He met a 16 years old Ai when he was 15, give or take a couple of months from each, the precise age isn't mentioned anywhere. Now, Hikaru got Ai pregnant. And we know from chapter 1 that Ai was 16 when she went to check on her pregnancy, and according to Dr. Goro, she was 5 months into the pregnancy. Add 4 months on top of that and it's very reasonable to say that Ai was around 17 when she gave birth, which would put Hikaru at around 16, the same age when he was no longer part of Lalalie, which would also be the same age he stopped acting. Now, why am I saying this? In chapter 96, Kindaichi Toshirou tells Akane that, back then, Hikaru was one of the best performers at Lalalie, implying that Hikaru is either not on the same level anymore, or he doesn't perform anymore. We know from Detective Akane that Hikaru graduated from the Faculty of Science, which means he didn't pursue an acting career. He didn't go to an acting school, he didn't drop school to focus on his acting. We also know that he established his agency when he was 25, which means that shortly after he graduated, he opened a production agency. But the biggest evidence that he stopped acting comes from his mirror resemblance to Aqua. Kindaichi knows Hikaru. As a founding member of Lalalie, he has worked with him before. I mean, he remembers his eyes after so many years, he knows he's the one who sends white roses to award-winning actors, he lets Akane see Hikaru's old rehearsal videos where it takes Akane 1 second to realize she's literally watching Aqua. Kindaichi has worked with Aqua during the Tokyo Blade play. I mean, they went drinking together. Yet he doesn't say anything, he doesn't react in any way when he sees that Aqua looks exactly like Hikaru. And speaking of not noticing the resemblance, Why hasn't anyone in the industry noticed that? Would someone like Masaya Kaburaki not notice that? He has sent many rising stars to learn acting at Lalalie, so he must have been there a few times and therefore seen the members of Lalalie. To me, this implies that Hikaru is not acting anymore, that he has stopped acting a long time ago. If he stopped acting from 16, then it's reasonable to believe that people have forgotten about him, hence why nobody noticed the resemblance with Aqua. It's still odd that Kindaichi didn't notice, but it makes sense why nobody else did. Now, since we have brought up Kindaichi Toshirou, let's have a look at some Black-Starry-Eyes. In chapter 96, Kindaichi refers to the starry eyes as deceptive with the power to make lies look like truths. He bases his take on his old student Hikaru, as he tells Akane about him right after saying that. This memory also seems to sadden him or maybe disappoint him in some way. We can see from Hikaru's old rehearsal videos that he's got two black starry eyes, the same shape and color as Ruby's and Aqua's when they awoke their revenge, contrasting that to eyes which stars were white, therefore suggesting that black stars are meant to symbolize some form of darkness. And what I mean by darkness is a drive to achieve one's goal by any means necessary. Of course, some malice is also involved, as the eyes seem to appear when the word kill gets brought up. And I think Ruby is the perfect example to showcase this. She was introduced as a bright and uplifting person, someone who dreamed of becoming an idol to honor her mother. She was presented as a person who wouldn't use other people to achieve her goal. However, when her stars turned black, she had no problem using people, no problem taking advantage of anyone she needed in order to achieve her goals. Same thing with Aqua. His eye only turned black when he went against his principles to achieve his goals. Of course, as of chapter 98, Aqua's got two black starry eyes, which would mean that he will use any means necessary to get what he wants. The bloodthirst is on. So it doesn't mean the person is necessarily evil, it just means they'll step over bodies if that's what it takes to achieve or satisfy their goals. We'll get to Hikaru's killing, so don't worry about that. An interesting thing here, which could be an editing error, so take it with a grain of salt, is that the twin stars turn white when they think about someone or something they genuinely care about. Let's look at chapter 104 for example. Ruby and Aqua have a conversation about Kana. We can see in this panel that Ruby's right star is black and so is Aqua's left star. However, in the next panel, when Aqua is thinking about Kana, his left star turns white. Same thing with Ruby. Throughout these panels, her stars are black, but when she talks about wanting to save Kana, her right star turns white. Again, could be just an editing error or some creative decision. Unfortunately, as far as the supernatural goes, this is all the new information that we've got. It further emphasizes that black starry eyes mean negative determination, they represent ill intent if you want, but nothing new about the deities. Or maybe there is and I'm missing it. I think the feathers from Hikaru's collar might have a symbolistic connection to the crow deity, but I have nothing new to say about that. Now, before we move on to the big topic of what does Hikaru want, let's answer a recurring question. Was Hikaru reincarnated as the twins were? And the thing with this is that whether he was or wasn't doesn't really change that much. It could make some of his actions more believable, so to say, like getting an adult pregnant when he was 11, but I think we already have that question answered. Aka Akasaka showed how Melt, when he was a middle schooler, was taken advantage of an upperclassmate. This scene serves two purposes. One, to show us that a sexual relation between a middle schooler and an older person is possible, and not that uncommon in the universe of the series, therefore showing how Hikaru got Himekawa pregnant, and two, to show us how an older person took advantage of a younger person, i.e. Himekawa taking advantage of Hikaru, because there is no way a child of 11 or less could possibly seduce a married woman, unless the woman was into that. Which doesn't necessarily mean Hikaru was a victim, given that he already had those black starry eyes before he met Himekawa. It just means that Himekawa was also at fault. What I actually think happened is that Hikaru wanted to have Himekawa killed. He couldn't kill her himself because he was a kid, but he had ways to get her killed. Which leads us into the main question. What does Hikaru want? In chapter 68, we find out that Taiki Himekawa's father was a B-list actor. However, his wife, Aira Himekawa, was a big shot. She was the lead actress on a morning drama show, and according to what Taiki says in this bubble here, his father surrounded himself with talented actresses, would also imply that Aira Himekawa was a talented actress. Now, keep this in mind as we have a look at chapter 109. Here we see Hikaru chatting with Yura Katayose, a very popular and talented actress, the country's greatest actress by his own words. Her popularity is booming, she talks with such passion and enthusiasm about her future, and there it is, the star. And what does Hikaru do after he sees that? An actress so talented, loved by everyone and worth every penny, loses her life because of him. He killed such an actress and he enjoyed it. Given that Hikaru is around 30-ish during this time, he would have no trouble doing the deed alone, but back when he was a kid, he needed other people to do his dirty jobs. Now, if we go back to Airi Himekawa, what happened with the Himekawa couple? It's said they committed double suicide, but what if information that Airi cheated on her husband with a kid no less got to Seijuro, and that's how this double suicide happened? This scenario is also implied in chapter 108 by Ichigo Saito. What's even more interesting is that this scenario also applies in Ai's case. Let's look at the similarities. Hikaru got Himekawa pregnant. Hikaru also got Ai pregnant. Hikaru let Taiki live. Hikaru also let Aqua and Ruby live. Hikaru made Seijiro kill Himekawa. Hikaru made the stalker kill Ai. What this means is that Hikaru likes to kill talented women who have pure determination and ambition to achieve something big. So far, we have 3 cases that fit his killing pattern: Himekawa, Ai, and Yura. We know for sure that Ai and Yura had the talent and determination to achieve their dreams, symbolized by their starry eyes. We don't know much about Himekawa, but based on the fact that she was the lead actress in a morning drama show, and Taiki saying she was a big shot, I will go ahead and assume she also had the same determination, therefore the same starry eyes. And if this pattern is correct, then the award winning with those bright starry eyes, Akane Kurokawa, is on his list. The white roses she received in chapter 96 are what I would call a mark, like marking his victim. I really like Akane, but I cannot vouch for her survival. Now this also explains why Hikaru moved away from acting and opened an agency. He can recruit new talent, watch their progress, and kill them. What better way to find new talented victims than owning a talent agency? The fact that he left his children alive also makes perfect sense now. It's not his career he's trying to protect. He wasn't trying to avoid the scandal when he killed Ai, because he isn't an actor anymore. He just wants to kill talented and ambitious women. And I guess the only question that's left now is, why does he do that? I don't think he's a straight up psychopath. I don't think he kills just for pleasure. I think this is 100% supernatural related. I don't have a theory based on evidence for this one, because there hasn't been any new information about the supernatural since Ruby awoken her Hoshigan, but if my speculation from my previous video holds any power, then I might be onto something. Might. In my previous video, I speculated that the white and black starry eyes represent 2 deities, Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, with Amaterasu being the white star and Tsukuyomi the black. One representing purity and happiness and the other anger and malice. If that turns out to be true, then I would say Hikaru only kills those who have or develop the white starry eyes, those touched by Amaterasu, so to say. Maybe as a way to get revenge on Amaterasu for banishing Tsukuyomi. I am pretty sure we're going to hear about these 2 gods sooner rather than later. But this is just a speculation and I can't prove it, so take it with a good amount of salt. Now one last thing I want to touch on before I end this video. I mentioned that it was incredibly odd how Kindaichi didn't notice the resemblance between Hikaru and Aqua. As someone who has worked with Hikaru from a young age, knows that he's got his own agency, knows that he sends white roses to actors from Lalalie on different occasions, knows how he looks like, remembers his eyes, There's also a very high chance he knows Hikaru was seeing Ai since she also attended Lalalie when he was there. Someone with his knowledge of Hikaru wouldn't flinch when a mini Hikaru pops into Lalalie. I don't believe that. There's got to be something here. I'm going to wear my most sane Oshinoko fan hat for a second and say that Kindaichi Toshirou knew about Himekawa and Hikaru, knows that Aqua is related to Hikaru but chooses to stay silent because he is guilty of something. I'll do my most diligent research and see if I can dig some dirt on Kindaichi. But with that being said, and with the most sane fan hat off, thank you for watching and let's see how this mystery unfolds.